The grim allure of serial killers has captivated our collective imagination since the inception of newspapers. It could be the daunting psychology of individuals willing to breach society's gravest taboos, or perhaps the unnerving notion that someone in our daily life, like the person at the local store, hides a dark secret. What truly haunts the public, prompting them to repeatedly verify their home security, are the tales of killers who remain at large. While it's deeply unsettling to delve into the dark deeds of figures like Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy, it's equally disturbing to ponder about those elusive criminals still free, or those so adept their existence remains undetected. Here are top 10 serial killers who have never been caught. Number 10. The Babysitter Killer. The unidentified serial murderer, known as the Oakland County Child Killer, or the Babysitter Killer, claimed the lives of at least 4 children in Oakland County, Michigan, between 1976 and 1977. This dark moniker was derived from the killer's unsettling habit of bathing each victim before their demise, leading experts to believe the murderer might have had a distorted sense of caregiving. This heinous spree instilled fear in Michigan parents, leading to a surge in community watch groups. While several potential leads emerged, including the identification of a vehicle possibly linked to the perpetrator, the crimes remain unsolved to this day. In a significant turn of events in 2012, detectives established a DNA profile of the suspect. However, it didn't correspond to any suspects or existing records. The most chilling aspect of these crimes, beyond the perpetrator remaining unidentified, is the duration of the abductions. Each child endured captivity for periods ranging from 4 to 19 days before being meticulously cleaned and murdered. Number 9. The Highway of Tears Killers. While many associate the term serial killer predominantly with the US, Canada too has witnessed its own set of chilling murder mysteries, with several remaining unsolved to this day. One of the most notorious is the case of the Highway of Tears in British Columbia. This 450-mile, 724-kilometer section of Highway 16, connecting Prince George to Prince Rupert, is tragically recognized for at least 18 murders or disappearances. Some believe the number could be as high as 40 that occurred between 1969 and 2011, with a majority being Indigenous women. Given the broad time frame, authorities believe several culprits could have operated along this highway over the decades. Though the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, managed to gather enough evidence to charge someone for a single case, it only partly solves the mystery. The evidence indicates this individual could at least be linked to 2 of the killings, suggesting that the other murders were committed by different and possibly still active perpetrators. Number 8. Bible John. Initiating the largest manhunt in Scotland's history, the enigma surrounding Bible John has persisted for over a century. Despite various theories and speculations, the identity of the killer behind the gruesome murders of Patricia Docker in 1968, followed by Jemima McDonald and Helen Puttock in 1969, remains shrouded in mystery. All 3 young victims were brutally assaulted and murdered after encountering their assailant at Glasgow's renowned Barrowland Ballroom. The most significant lead came from Jean, Helen Puttock's sister, who had the unfortunate circumstance of sharing a taxi ride with Helen and the alleged killer on that fateful night. Her account, which depicted the man quoting scriptures, gave the perpetrator his ominous moniker. However, with Jean's passing in 2010, and given she was the sole witness, the chances of ever unmasking Bible John have dwindled significantly. Number 7. The Alphabet Killer. In the early 1970s, the quiet town of Rochester, New York, was shaken by a series of chilling crimes, known as the Alphabet Murders. This grim epithet was given due to the perpetrator's eerie pattern. He exclusively targeted young girls whose first and last names began with the same initial. Tragically, 3 innocent lives were claimed by the Alphabet Killer. Each victim was subjected to assault before being mercilessly strangled. The harrowing scene of 10-year-old Carmen Colon attempted to flee, half-clothed by the roadside, was witnessed by several motorists, painting a distressing tableau of the terror she faced. Despite these eyewitness accounts, the enigma of the Alphabet Killer remains unsolved to this day. Throughout the investigation, authorities identified a handful of potential suspects. One of these persons of interest, flagged as recently as 2011, bore an unsettling pattern in his crimes. While he was eventually convicted and sentenced to death for the murder of sex workers in Nevada, the peculiar detail that stood out was the alliterative nature of the victims' names, eerily echoing the modus operandi of the Alphabet Killer. Despite these leads, the shadow of uncertainty still hangs over the case, with no definitive links connecting any of the suspects directly to the heinous crimes in Rochester. Number 6. The West Mesa Bone Collector. With a moniker that sounds eerily cinematic, the enigmatic West Mesa Bone Collector remains a haunting presence in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and perhaps even beyond its borders. The shadowy figure came under the limelight in 2009, after the unsettling discovery of 11 bodies in Albuquerque's West Mesa region. The chain of discoveries began when a local woman stumbled upon a human femur bone peeking out from a former construction site. This led police to unearth the remains of several women who had vanished between 2003 and 2005. Yet the chilling fact remains. There are still about 13 other women, last seen as late as 2006, who are feared to be additional victims of this elusive killer. Despite identifying a few potential culprits, the police found themselves without substantial evidence to pin anyone conclusively. Recent speculations lean towards the unnerving possibility of not one, but several culprits, perhaps involved in a sinister sex trafficking operation, especially given the backgrounds of many victims in sex work. As of 2021, the investigation remains ongoing, with the police continuously sifting through 20 to 30 leads each year. The hope to crack the case persists. A reward of $100,000 is on offer for any information that could provide a breakthrough. Number 5. Servant Girl Annihilator. Known as one of the earliest identified serial killers in the US, the Servant Girl Annihilator wreaked havoc in Austin, Texas from December 1884 to December 1885. This ominous figure brutally took the lives of 7 women and 1 man, with each victim being domestic workers. They were either slain in their sleep or pulled from their resting places and murdered outdoors. On a particularly chilling night in December 1885, the murderer claimed 3 lives using an axe, leading some to refer to him as the Austin Axe Murderer. Given that these heinous crimes took place well over a century ago, records and evidence from that time are patchy. However, a New York Times reporter from December 26, 1885, noted that around 400 individuals had been detained in relation to these crimes. Interestingly, some modern-day investigators speculate a connection between the Austin Axe Murderer and the infamous Jack the Ripper, who terrorized London streets just a few years later in 1888. However, the most probable culprit behind the Austin murders is believed to be Nathan Elgin, a local with a distinct deformity. He had only 4 toes on 1 foot, a detail that matches footprints found at several crime scenes. In 1886, Elgin met his end when police officer John Bracken shot him while intervening in an altercation where Elgin was assaulting a girl named Julia outside a saloon. While this historical mystery continues to intrigue many, the silver lining is that, given the passage of time, this nefarious killer is no longer a threat. Number 4. The Long Island Killer. The Long Island Killer is an elusive figure believed to have committed multiple murders in New York since 1996. Authorities speculate he's a white male, 20s to 40s, with deep knowledge of police methods, helping him avoid capture. His crimes came to light in 2010 when a search for a missing woman, Shannon Gilbert, led to the discovery of her remains and 10 other victims on Long Island's Gilgo Beach. Despite investigations and suspects, including a former police chief, the case remains unsolved. A $50,000 reward exists for information leading to his arrest. Number 3. The Black Doodler. Dubbed the Doodler due to his inclination to sketch his male models, this killer left a trail of terror in San Francisco between January 1974 and September 1975. Rather than simply sketching, he assaulted and fatally stabbed numerous men, claiming the lives of anywhere between 6 and 14 individuals from the city's gay scene. While San Francisco was seen as a progressive hub, the 1970s weren't as embracing of the LGBTQ+ community, making many of the Doodler's survivors hesitant to work with the police, fearing exposure and backlash. This reticence hampered the investigation, and the case went cold. However, the tide seems to be turning. With societal progress and advancements in forensic technology, more witnesses are stepping forward, and the net appears to be tightening around a potential suspect. Leveraging DNA and fingerprint analyses, the authorities believe that they have a person of interest in their sights, a resident of San Francisco. A significant reward of $200,000 is on offer for information that might provide the conclusive evidence needed to bring this case to a close. Number 2. The Zodiac Killer. Thanks to the 2007 film Zodiac, the mystery surrounding the Zodiac Killer gained widespread notoriety. Throughout the late 1960s, this elusive murderer sent baffling messages to the San Francisco Bay Area media and police, much like London's Jack the Ripper did decades earlier. He terrorized the city with cryptic clues at crime scenes, threats against school buses, and ominous letters to newspapers. By 2022, only half of his 4 ciphers had been decoded. Starting in 1969, with the killing of 2 teenagers on a lover's lane, 5 deaths were firmly attributed to the Zodiac, although he claimed 37. Despite numerous suspects, the case remains unresolved. In 2021, a group of amateur detectives claimed the Zodiac was Gary Francis Post, who died in prison in 2018. However, authorities have yet to confirm this claim. Number 1. Jack the Ripper. The infamy of London's Jack the Ripper, perhaps the world's most notorious serial killer, is hard to pin down. Despite his reign of terror dating back to 1888, the gruesome nature of his crimes, coupled with his evasion of capture in an era boasting strict law enforcement, has perpetuated his legend. Often seen as the catalyst for the world's morbid fascination with serial killers, he is believed to have slain at least 5 women in London's East End. Contrary to popular belief, not all were sex workers. As Londoners lived in fear, authorities cast suspicion on various professionals, from butchers to medical practitioners, yet no substantial lead emerged. Among the myriad of letters claiming to be from the Ripper, a handful, including the notorious From Hell letter, are believed to be genuine, inspiring numerous adaptations in literature and film. Much of the original evidence was lost during World War II bombings, dimming hopes of ever definitively solving the mystery. However, speculation runs wild, with suspects ranging from famed writer Lewis Carroll to figures connected to Queen Victoria, her personal surgeon John Williams, and even her grandson, Prince Albert Victor.